Hello, my fellow concerned friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello. I hope you stick around and I hope you enjoy my content. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Thank you for returning and thank you for showing up and supporting me every single week. And I really hope you stick around for today's video because today's video is definitely going to be stepping on a lot of toes. Because today we are talking about foster care, adoption, and how some people who struggle with infertility feel entitled to a child simply because they have a deep desire to have a child. So let's get into this, huh? So as I always do, I am scrolling on TikTok this week when I found myself in the middle of some online drama, okay? It was one of those things where I found myself smack dab in the middle of it and I didn't know what was going on until I went to the comments, okay? I saw a video of a soon-to-be mother, soon-to-be mom and dad, throwing themselves a baby shower for this soon-to-be baby. And when I first saw the video, it was like a slideshow with pictures. I sat there and thought to myself, like, what's the big deal? Like, okay, maybe she's just a few weeks pregnant. Like, she doesn't have an obvious baby bump. Some people throw themselves really early baby showers. I don't know. Who am I to judge, right? And that is when I realized that this person is not pregnant at all. This person is throwing themselves a baby shower because they want to be pregnant and they want to foster. So they're throwing themselves a baby shower. Guys, I am taking you guys on the deep dive that is Shelby Whitaker, a woman that is trying to conceive on TikTok and is doing it in all of the wrong ways and in all of the wrong places. When I tell you guys I did a deep dive on this girl because I didn't want to miss anything, I didn't want to assume anything, I wanted to make sure I had all of my ducks in a row, I mean it, okay? I scrolled down to this girl's very first post ever from 2019 on TikTok, and I sat there and spent hours going through every single one of her videos because a lot of her videos when she's talking about trying to conceive, she doesn't really talk about fostering or adoption except for like one quick time in the video or like at the very end. So I found myself really having to make sure that I listened to every single second of the video so that I didn't miss something that I felt like was important in this conversation of people who struggle with infertility feeling entitled to children. I even went as far as creating a flowchart. And we're going to be going through every single one of these bubbles. And I also just want to preface this video by saying, although I am using Shelby Whitaker and the videos and things that she has posted herself publicly, I'm using her as an example. I want to make this very clear. This is not a hate video on Shelby Whitaker. Please do not seek out going to harass or send hate to these people at all. I am just using her as an example because unfortunately, there are too many future foster parents or future adoptive parents who have these feelings, who feel entitled to children in this way. Somebody that I can think of pretty recently that I talked about on my TikTok a couple years ago is Brittany Dawn. If you guys don't know who Brittany Dawn is, she was a Christian like momfluencer who started fostering and was posting this foster baby publicly to her social media platforms where she had hundreds of thousands of followers posting this baby's face and calling herself a mom. And when this was all happening a couple years ago, I want to say like 3 years ago at this point, I'm not sure, I got so much hate on TikTok because I called this out on TikTok. I was like, this is wrong. You are not that baby's parent. That baby has parents and the whole goal of foster care is reunification. And when I tell you people on TikTok during that period of time put their hands through my neck and grabbed my throat and tried to yank it out, guys. I mean, some people are like really passionate about foster and adoptive kids in the wrong way. Gussie wanted to come say hi. Can you say hi, Gus? Maybe do a little purr for him? No, he's not gonna say anything. He's trying to wiggle away from me, sorry. But I mentioned all of that about Brittany Dawn to show you guys that this is not an isolated thing, okay? Shelby Whitaker, Brittany Dawn, there are hundreds of thousands of people here in the United States, I'm just speaking for the US here, who feel so incredibly entitled to children that they don't even care how they obtain these children. They just want this kid. Okay, I'm gonna have this flow chart of Shelby Whitaker up here, and we're gonna go through it pretty quickly because this entire video is not just on Shelby Whitaker. I just think before we get into everything else, it's really important that we lay some groundwork here so that you understand how this even came to be, okay? Because when we get to the end of this, you're gonna see how much of a train wreck this actually is. Okay, so as you can see at the very top here, we have Shelby Whitaker, and we have three main things that are like branching off of Shelby Whitaker. Number one, oh, ignore my notification there. Number one is she wants a baby. Number two is she is a Christian. And number three is just some things that, you know, in watching all of her videos, I have found about her that I think are really great things. Like, she is super passionate about pursuing medicine. Like, I could not do what she is doing. I can tell you that much right now. She has fantastic fashion, amazing fashion. She looks so cute all the time. She has a very electric, fiery personality. I love her personality that is portrayed through her videos. She's a firecracker, and she just seems really carefree, and I love people like that. And it seems like she has a beautiful marriage, and it seems like in general they are very successful people. They just recently moved into a new house. She just recently got a brand new car. They're currently going through like IUI treatments. Like, they generally, as far as finances, they seem to be very well off, happy family, very ambitious people who are shooting for the stars, and so far they're getting there. If we come back to the center here where she wants a baby, we can go down one more click down and we see she is infertile. And this is where it's important to go over to our blue bubbles, okay? Because Christians, let me pause right here. If you did not know this about me, I am a former Christian. I used to be an independent fundamental Baptist, and my whole heart was in it. I wanted to be a pastor's wife. I went to Pensacola Christian College. Like, I really thought that like the Bible was true. Like, I genuinely, like, I came from like all of my abusive, traumatic childhood, and then in foster care was thrown into this religious cult, and I'm like, wow, all of these people seem so successful and happy. They were robots. This is what I need to do too. Okay, so I know a thing or two about Christian ideology and what their beliefs are and their doctrines that they hold, generally speaking, as well as specifically in the IFB church. So I don't know what denomination, if any, they align to, but I do know that they're Christians. And in general, Christians don't believe in traditional therapy. They typically believe in praying to God and letting God handle everything, letting God take care of it. God is the ultimate counselor. He is the ultimate healer. So if ever you have something going wrong in your life, just pray about it, and God will take care of it. And if God wants to give you that thing, he will. And if he doesn't, he'll make it clear that that door is shut, or he'll show you something else. But at the end of the day, therapy is not necessary, right? Like, I feel like the extent of therapy that most Christians are like okay with, unless like you're going to a pretty progressive church, is like Christian counseling. So I know for me, like when me and my husband first got married and we were going through like, you know, like the natural things, like whenever you first get married and stuff, we wanted to do counseling. So we did Christian marriage counseling through the pastor with our church. All right. And one of the pieces of advice, by the way, that was given, and just so you know, me and my husband have grown past this. We are fully deconstructed, and my husband is the biggest feminist that I know. Okay. But one of the pieces of advice that we were given that kind of both made me and my husband be like, is this really what we want to live by? Was something, a question was asked about like, if my husband didn't want to put his dish in the sink, like what should happen? And I was like, well, I would ask him to put the dish in the sink. And then the counselor said something like, and if he didn't want to, that would be completely fine because he's the head of the house and doing the chores is your job, right? And I remember me and my husband looking at each other being like, oh, I mean, like, I guess technically, like if we're going by the rules of the church and we want to abide by the rules of the church, then yeah, I guess. But that was just kind of one of those things that made us realize like, this is not working. And this therapy is not therapy. This is just conditioning and putting women in a tighter fit box to support the patriarchy. And it all stems from misogyny, right? So that's the kind of extent that therapy a lot of Christians go to. Or if they do like outsource therapy, they are still keeping up with like the Christian theme. Like if they're outsourcing therapy, a lot of them are looking for a Christian therapist, a Christian psychiatrist, et cetera, et cetera. And now listen, I am not here saying that Christian therapists and Christian psychiatrists are bad people and you shouldn't trust them. But what I am saying is that oftentimes Christians refuse to hear any outside voices unless they align with their own personal beliefs and biases. And especially when it comes to possibly fostering and adopting kids in general, but kids who come from trauma, the water starts to get a little murky there, doesn't it? And moving on from just the therapy bubble, another thing that has to do with Christianity and I think applies in this whole situation is that Christianity heavily pressures women into starting families young. And Christianity will also tell women that they aren't as good or good enough if they can't have or don't have their own children, whether it's biological or not. That is something that is heavily pressured on women in the church, is to get married young. Get married young, the younger the better, because then the more babies that you can have. And they even use a Bible verse for this. I think it's in Timothy, like 1st or 2nd Timothy, where it's something like, blessed is the man who hath his freaking quiver full of arrows, and the arrows are like representative. Let me just pull it up. I used to have it memorized and now I don't. Let me pull it up. Hold on. Got it wrong. It's from Psalms 127. It's verse 3 and 4. I want you to actually hear these words. This is things that are taught to women in the church from the time that they're little girls. Really hear this. Really let it sink in, okay? Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. So essentially what this verse is saying, at least what I interpret it as now, and kind of like how it was taught to me whenever I was in the church and going through like Christian school and Christian college, is essentially that if you are a woman and you have as many babies as you can, it doesn't matter like if people are judging you. Basically, the more babies you have is more proof of God's blessing on you, and also more opportunities to have kids be able to go out and spread the gospel. Hence the that they're like arrows in a quiver, because you shoot, the more arrows you have in your quiver, the more chances you get to shoot, right? And think about that though. Think about the impact, the mental impact on women growing up in the church. They are going to feel like, I am not as successful, I won't be as blessed, I won't be as valued to God or to other people in the church if I'm not having kids. If I'm not having my own kids, then clearly there must be something wrong with me. And I'm not even saying that they feel this way like on a physical level. Like, yes, if you like want to have kids and you're not able to have kids, clearly there's something going on, right? But I mean, they think like there is a deep spiritual, mental default with them. Like there is something inherently wrong with them simply because they cannot have children. And I think that is so incredibly sad. And it's so incredibly dangerous, because I believe that it puts these people in this position where, for instance, with Shelby Whitaker being a Christian, it turns into, well, if I can't have my own kids, then I guess I'll settle. And the second best option is having someone else's kid. And if you have that mindset when you are fostering or adopting, or thinking of fostering or adopting as if fostering and adopting is just the second best option to try to feel like I'm a mother, do not do it. You are not doing it for the right reasons, because that is not why anybody should ever foster or adopt a child. So now when we're looking at the flow chart that is Shelby Whitaker, we find ourselves stuck in the middle, below infertile and to the left of all of the things that does have to do with Christianity, right? And so where they are finding themselves is at this crossroads of what they feel like is three options. One second, my camera is starting to tilt down. Okay, I think I fixed it. I'm still feeling like it's not. Anyway, we have these three bubbles under infertility and to the left of Christianity, right? And that leaves them with what they feel like is three options: adoption, fostering, IVF/IUI, or continuing fertility treatments. Now, here is where this journey to trying to conceive starts to turn extremely dark and sinister, and where I see so many trying to conceive journeys turning extremely dark and sinister is that when these people are realizing that maybe fertility treatments aren't working, or maybe the fertility treatments aren't working as fast as they hoped that they would, they start looking at fostering and adoption as a last resort. as a second best option. Like, well, if I can't get my own biological kids, then I guess I will settle for raising these unfortunate poor kids. And I don't think I need to sit here and explicitly tell you why that's a bad thing, but I will. I trust and believe I will be getting into this. But what is sad to me is that when people like this find themselves at this crossroads, like, okay, the fertility treatment isn't working, so maybe we'll continue with this, or we'll just settle for these unfortunate, unwanted kids, is that they don't try therapy. Right? Like in particular with like this case with Shelby Whitaker, I'll take you more through some of the things that she has tried. Is in going through these fertility treatments, she was open to the idea of fostering. However, she has said at least twice in her videos that fostering isn't really what they want. It's just kind of the path that God has them on right now.
I've wanted to be a mom for so long. Like, being a biological mom and being a foster mom is so different, and it's not what I've always wanted, and this is not my plan. And I know that that sounds really selfish, but I'm being a truther here with you.
So this is not even something that her heart's really in. This is just something that she is genuinely saying to the public that she views as the second best option, even if it's not really what she wants. So she's talking to these fellow Christian friends of hers that have adopted, that have fostered, and she's realizing, maybe we could give this a try. Maybe we could try this out. And she does. So to make a really long story short, she ends up connecting with a Christian foster and adoption agency. Okay, and talks about how in her training classes, in her parenting classes, in the classes that you have to take to become a foster parent, which go over trauma and how to help traumatized kids, and go over some of the reasons these children are ripped away from the families that they love, by the way. She talks about crying in these classes and just being so emotional and crying. And you want to know why she was crying? Because her heart was just so broken for the fact that these kids have to be taken away. No, I'm joking. That's not why she was crying. Also, ignore my burn. I burned myself trying to cook with my child. Like a week ago, okay? I've been trying to hide it, but there it is, out in the open. All right, anyway, no, she's crying for herself. She literally openly admits that she was emotional and crying basically because she just can't believe that she's finally going to get this opportunity to be a mom.
Today we had our licensing and fostering and adoption training. I honestly cried the entire time. Like good, happy, thankful, blessed, emotional tears. Like the way that God is moving in our lives is absolutely insane with this fostering. Literally the fear of getting so attached to a baby and loving them and then them being stripped away from you.
Let me explain this for those of you who do not understand, because I already can smell the comments talking about, well, why is it a big deal for somebody to be excited about helping out kids who come from struggling places? Blah, blah, blah. It's a big deal that you're sitting here making a child's trauma all about you. Okay, the fact that people like this enter the foster care world with nothing but hope and excitement for themselves should be reason enough to deny them their license. Because you're not doing it for the children. Yeah, you should be crying and heartbroken in your parenting classes because this is sad. If we have to have foster parents, it's because we have families who can't afford to keep food on the table. It's because we have families who can't afford to keep the lights on. It's because we have families who are going through neglect and trauma. Or on the worst side of it, it's because we have kids who are experiencing abuse firsthand. And some of y'all are sitting in your classes learning how to take care of kids like that, being overjoyed and excited that you finally will get to have a kid in your home. It is entitled. It is pure entitlement. Because it is very clearly not an excitement to get to be a help for a child, to get to be a safe, supportive place for a child, to get to be the punching bag for a child while they regulate themselves. That is not the excitement we're seeing here. The excitement we're seeing here is that she's going to get to cosplay mommy and daddy to someone else's baby. Don't believe me? Okay, let's fast forward to when she does get licensed, very quickly might I add, and they get their first call. They get their first placement call for a baby girl who's 3 months old. By the way, we shouldn't know that. Under Texas law, we should not know that information, that she got already a placement call for a baby girl who is 3 months old in the state of Texas. That is already way too much information that the general public you just gave to everybody. Okay. And before we go any further into this, because like I said, I was going to show you guys how crazy this is. I want to take a tea break here and go over some of the laws the state of Texas has when it comes to fostering. Okay, you can hear my cat eating in the background, ignore him. But this is from hh.texas.gov. Residential Child Care Regulation Standards, FAQs, General. This is the very first FAQ. Can a foster parent or facility caregiver post something about a child in care on Twitter, Facebook, or any other social networking site? Note that this question did not say post a picture, post a video. They just said post something. That could be anything about a child in care on social networking sites. According to Texas law, the answer to this question is no. So I don't care what your opinions are on if foster parents should be allowed to or not. They shouldn't be allowed to because that's not their own damn kid. And they also are not that kid. And parents also shouldn't be posting their kids online, let alone foster parents. Moving on. No. Rules 748.1101 and 749.1003 require that you ensure the child's right to confidential care and treatment. Confidential care and treatment includes refraining from identifying a foster child or child in residential care as such in any internet communications with others, including social networking sites. Pictures or information identifying a child as a foster child or child in residential care on the internet, including social networking sites, violates the child's right to confidential care. So, we already know that she has had a call for a 3-month-old girl placement. That is a crime. That right there alone. If you are posting your foster care journey online, red flag already. I don't know how you even have a license. Now, there are some who do it right. I'll put one up here in particular who I love so much, Laura Foster Care. She is a foster parent who talks about being a foster parent, talks about all the ins and outs of fostering, without ever identifying any of her foster kids. And half the time, I actually don't even know if she has a foster kid in her home or not. But she makes great educational content without ever sacrificing the privacy of these children who deserve the most privacy in care. And again, this problem does not only fall on Shelby Whitaker. She is not the only foster parent doing this. In fact, if you go through Shelby Whitaker's reposts, she reposts other foster parents' videos where these other foster parents are also showing their foster kids. And you can give me the bull crap runaround of, oh, it has a little heart sticker on its face. Yeah, covering it like this. Guess the baby's eye color. I'm sorry. That is still that's not your kid. Oh, don't post kids that aren't yours. That's not your child. And also, if it is your child, don't post them. Why do you need to post kids online for other people's validation? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God, especially a stranger's kid. This is so yucky. You don't take parenting seriously. It's just a fun little cosplay for you. It's a fun little dress up dolly game. Get a doll and dress it up and then post it all over the internet. My camera's falling. Let me fix this. Okay. I fixed my camera. I had my crash out. So let's move on from the fact that she broke the law while telling everybody that she has a little girl 3 months old in her care. Well, almost did, because this is where the crash out starts, okay? She gets the call to have this little girl come into her care, and she gets excited. She puts the car seat in, she puts the diaper bag in the car, and she gets everything all ready. She is so excited. And then they tell her, well, actually, she doesn't need to go with you because this little girl has family that can take her. She can go with family members. Isn't that great? And she's like, yeah, that's great. I'm so happy for her. But I was just so excited to be able to hold her, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'll let you guys see. This is crazy.
I have an update for you guys. We got a call for a baby girl. She is a 3-month-old baby girl. We got the call early this morning, And so I kind of started going crazy, got the car seat in the car, got the diaper bag, started like prepping the bottles, doing all of the things. And then we got a call a little bit later that there was a better placement for her that she will have family at. And so obviously that is the best placement for her. And so I'm like so happy and excited for her. But I was so excited to meet her and just hold her and cuddle her and just love on her. But like I have said in this entire journey, it's not my plan, it's God's plan. So we've literally only been licensed for a few days and we've already got our first call. I don't know what's going to happen, but I promise to be like an open book and really open and vulnerable. And sometimes infertility and like wanting to become a mom and just life in general, it's just so hard sometimes when it doesn't work out and so emotional. But before you know it, the next step is there and it all starts to make sense.
These people are so out of touch and entitled, feel so entitled to be a mom, to be a dad, to have a baby, that they legitimately think that it is valid to be upset when that child doesn't have to go live with a stranger. They legitimately feel validated to feel upset that that baby was able to go with family and that they didn't get to hold that baby. They actually are being validated from their peers around them, specifically the Christian ones, to feel sad for themselves that they didn't get to hold a traumatized stranger's baby just so that they could feel like a mom for a second. We are talking about actual human beings here, okay? That people like this are viewing as a product that they are entitled to. Like I am, believe it or not, entitled to a gallon of milk. Like there is nothing in the world telling me that I'm not allowed to have a gallon of milk. I am entitled to milk. If I walk down to the grocery store and they have milk there, I am entitled to buy that gallon of milk. That is how they are viewing children in care. Get that. Get that. All of these kids in care are just different shades of milk, from the darkest chocolate to the whitest of white milks. That's all this is a milk store to them. Like, it's actually insane. Kids are products to them. They really think that babies, and they choose babies for a multitude of reasons. People like this choose babies for so many reasons. One of the number one things I've heard is like, it'll just be easier to like let the kid grow up with, you know, the family, because then you don't have to like whatever. Basically lazy. You don't want to connect your kid with their culture. You're lazy. You don't want to have to maintain relationships with the kid's biological family if you don't like, unless there's like a problem there, you're lazy. Another reason that I've heard a lot that people choose babies is babies don't have trauma. Foster babies don't have trauma. Adopted babies don't have trauma. And you guys are allowed to foster and adopt? Oh my gosh, like people are genuinely allowed to foster and adopt babies while legitimately walking around thinking babies are not traumatized by being put in foster care or placed for adoption. And there might be some of you who are sitting here scratching your head being like, it's a baby. It's a baby. You were a baby once. Let me tell you this, as a mother myself, babies know smells. They know smells. Okay, if you grew a baby inside of you for 9-10 months, because on average it's 9 to 10 months, it's not always just 9, just a little fun fact. If you had a baby growing in you for the better half of a year, do you think that baby is not used to your smell? Do you think that that baby can't smell you when they are born and be able to tell the difference between your smell and maybe the dad's smell or your wife's smell or the grandma's smell or whoever else's smell? Babies know heartbeats. They know heartbeats. That is why if you place a baby on the chest of who carried them for all those months, they usually will calm down a lot faster because they know that heartbeat. It's familiar to them. So yes, when a baby is taken away from its mother at birth, that is traumatizing. No familiar smells, no familiar heartbeats, no familiar voice, nothing familiar. They're pushed out into a cold, loud, scary world and ripped away from the only thing that has ever brought them comfort. And you don't think that that causes trauma? It does. But she got over being sad about not being able to get that foster daughter that she wanted so bad pretty quickly, because she got another placement call and currently has a placement in their care that they have been taking care of. And, I just think that that's so disgusting and sad. And it just kind of proves that they are in this for themselves and not for the betterment of these children, because not only did she get over her grief of not getting the first placement really quick, the entire grief around not getting the first placement was completely self-centered anyway. So I don't see how people can't look at this situation and see it for what it is, that these people are using foster kids as a placeholder until they get their real baby. And also, while they are fostering right now, they are still going through infertility treatments. And to my knowledge, they have not said otherwise. They are still planning on possibly adopting a child in February. So it is January right now. We've got a possible adoption next month, fostering on their second placement and still going through fertility treatments while she is still in school for nursing. There is a lot going on here. And I can't help but ask myself, why do you feel like you have to have a baby so fast right now, right now, right now? And why have we not gone to therapy to figure out why you feel like you need a baby right away, right now, to the point that you're willing to foster, adopt, and do fertility treatments all at the same time, having never been a parent yourself, having no experience in parenting? To the point where she's talking about being a foster mom and how exhausting it is and how she doesn't know anything. And it's like, why are we letting people who want to be parents experiment on other people's babies? Why are we letting people who want to be parents experiment with our kids? Okay? And I know a lot of people sit here and say to themselves, well, Danielle, if a kid was put up for adoption, if a kid is put in foster care, then it must be for a reason, right? Yes. Yes, it is a reason. You got me there. But let me get you somewhere, okay? Do you know what that reason is? Do you know what the number one reason kids are put into foster care is? What that reason is? Neglect. Neglect. And now I know what you're thinking right off the bat is, mom's got a full tummy, she looks fly and beautiful, and her kids' teeth are rotting out of their head and they're starving. And while that definitely does happen, no, I'm talking about neglect as in they're not legally allowed to say that you're poor, right? So that they can't tell you, I'm taking your kid away because you're poor, so we're going to call it neglect instead. So what they will do is, this family who can't afford to keep food on the table, okay, maybe their kids are hungry, and maybe their kids aren't getting as many baths as they should because they can't afford the damn water bill. And maybe the lights are off right now because they can't afford that either, because they just had to pay for the car so that they can take their kids to school. And it's a really bad situation. What they will do is they will come in and they will remove those kids, okay? And then they'll call up people like Shelby Whitaker and say, hey, we have some kids, will you take them? And then what Shelby Whitaker will do is throw herself a baby shower, right? Put together this entire registry full of expensive items, because that's what she did with these foster kids. I'll insert a video here
for you guys. Jason and I, earlier this week, as I told y'all, we went to the Christian Agency for Foster and Adoption. They had a big dinner, and the bishop from Sound of Hope movie was there. Absolutely incredible, and changed our perspective completely. And we sit in our pre-application today to become foster parents. So I am so incredibly excited. Literally asked my husband, I'm like, wait, so what do we do if we're pregnant and then we have foster, and we're fostering twins or something? Because if you didn't know, having twins has been a dream of mine since I was a little girl. And he was like, the more the merrier. But I literally have nothing for a nursery. I have nothing. So I made a registry. So if you are a mom and you know anything about baby products, there's a few things. Like, this crib has been a dream of mine for years, like over 4 years. This is the crib that, whether it's for my foster baby or for my biological child, I want this crib. I literally dreamed about this crib. And then this Nuna, I don't care, we have went for years, put out different lines. This is the one that we want and have dreamed of. If you have not heard of the Mia diaper bag, that is a dream. And I know you're saying, Shelby, you don't need it. I've wanted to be a mom for over 6 years. So yes, ma'am, me and my baby, whether they're foster or biological or adopted, I don't care. We will both have the best of the best. The baby Reza, and it's like a Curate for formula, the perfect temperature, the perfect amount. And obviously, like, I'm just gonna get called one night for a foster baby and they're gonna be like, hey, and so these aren't producing milk. So I'm gonna have to have formula and something to make formula. So those are the for sure's on my list that no matter what I want.
Expensive items, like a $200 diaper bag, like over $1,000 stroller, all of these things for either a foster baby or even her own baby. She hasn't decided. Absolute insanity. That's what the foster parents get, right? They get the meal trains, they get the baby showers, they get the registry gifts, they get money from the state, they get stipends, they get support, they get everything that they need to take care of this child, while this family has to struggle even more now because now they just lost their kids and now there's even more hoops that they have to go through to be normal. What if, get this, we stopped giving these entitled ass people babies to practice on or babies to treat like second best just because they couldn't conceive any naturally on their own? How about we stop paying them to take care of these babies and instead we start actually helping families who need help? We actually help that single mother who cannot keep the lights on because she's working 1,000,000 jobs and half of the 1,000,000 jobs is paying for daycare alone. Why are we not helping her with government assisted housing or reduced housing and reduced bills or helping with like daycare and childcare and stuff like that? How come we're giving all of these resources to foster parents and not to the actual parents who could use them? That way, when foster parents are actually needed, they're actually needed, right? It's like an actual situation where it's like, okay, we can't give support and resources to this family to get them better. And now this is an actual situation where these kids are actually in a dangerous situation and they do need to be removed. Like in a situation like mine, I legitimately needed to be removed. Like my situation was not like my parents were in a bad situation and it just was a bad situation and I was removed and then they could fight for me back. It wasn't like that. My situation was a bad situation where reunification was not possible. But still, a lot of times reunification is possible because it's just a home issue that a lot of times these parents just need help with. And the same is true with adoption. The number one reason families and people are putting their children up for adoption is because they fear that they won't be able to take care of that child. Whether it's because of finances or their living situation, it is a deep fear of not being able to provide for this child. So when we have parents who want to keep their children, right? Like adoptive parents, a lot of them want to keep their babies, but they feel like they can't. Foster parents, they want, or, biological parents of children. Oh my gosh, my whole brain just got mumble jumbled there. Okay, biological parents of foster kids, like kids in the foster care system, they want to keep their children. So why are we not providing resources and help to keep these families together? Profit. And I know, put on your conspiracy theory hats, but it's not a conspiracy theory. This is like known fact. It is profitable for you to travel somewhere where it's legal to give your baby to the agency. Like there's some places where I just learned about this recently from my mutual Connor on TikTok. I'll have his video posted here. Where you can like travel to the state and like this agency will like let you like stay up in this like apartment and then you give birth and then give your baby away.
A lot of people think that you pay the biological parent for the baby. That is illegal.
Real? Okay.
Illegal.
That makes sense.
Yes.
That makes, like, if you think about it, like,
You'd be buying a baby.
You can't buy a person.
Yeah,
that's not how that works.
You can't buy another human. No.
A lot of people don't realize this, but you absolutely can buy a baby in the United States via private domestic adoption. It's just a matter of what state you're located in and how loose your definition is of what constitutes buying a baby.
It was highly illegal. Like, we could not send DoorDash. We could not give a gift basket. We could nothing.
She's right that there are states where it is illegal to send gifts, it's illegal to send DoorDash, but what she probably doesn't realize is that there are many states where this is legal, and adoption agencies will fly pregnant people to the states where it's legal so they can facilitate more adoptions.
I was chosen by the biological parents to be his parent. Like, they went out of their way to make sure that I got to be this.
Respectfully, you gotta have your head buried pretty deep in the sand to say that anyone in adoption is going out of their way to do anything. For most people involved in adoption, adoption is a last resort. And although you can't pay for DoorDash or gift cards in some states, what you can pay for is advertising. Whether they realize it or not, every American couple who adopts through a private adoption agency is spending tens of thousands of dollars on aggressive marketing campaigns designed specifically to talk pregnant women out of parenting their children. We're talking $10,000, $20,000 on average in advertising expenses for each baby that gets adopted. And look, although I'm never going to be the person to point a finger at anyone and say you bought a baby, I think anyone who's honest with themselves, if they took a step back and looked at the bigger picture as a whole, could admit that this system is designed to extract children from families in crisis and reward them as gifts to families that are hoping to adopt children. So the question becomes, is that buying a baby? And as someone who was sold for $12,000 by an adoption agency, I will just say that I think the only people who have any place to say whether or not this is buying a baby are the people who have been adopted, the people who have been part of these transactions themselves. Because if you've never walked through life with a price tag on your head, you simply can't understand what that actually feels like.
It's human trafficking. It is. And I am not saying that there is not a legitimate time and place for adoption, that there is not a legitimate time and place for foster care. But what I am saying is the way that it is now in America is you can personally shop for babies. And this is insanely, insanely scary because people will adopt children and then turn around and rehome them like they are dogs, literally on Facebook. I'm not making this up. This is all very easy. You can look all of this up very easily yourself. This is something that legitimately happens. Or people will start fostering with this idea of what it will be, and then it's not what they thought it would be. And now these foster kids are failed time and time again. These adopted kids are failed and rehomed time and time again. And it comes down to foster and adoptive parents not knowing what the hell they're getting themselves into and creating this idea and fantasy of a family inside of their head and thinking that a foster kid or adoptive kid can fill that gap instead of going to therapy and getting to the bottom of why do I feel like I have to have a family? Is it because I'm a Christian and I'm a woman and the church has told me if I'm not starting a family, if I don't have my quiver full of arrows, then I'm not as useful? Is it because my mom wasn't good to me, so I feel like I will not have come full circle until I have a child that I can be good to? What is that reason? And maybe you'll go through therapy and you'll come out of it being like, I'm actually at peace with not having kids. Actually, I don't think having kids is as big of a deal to me as I thought it would be. And I'm actually cool with never having kids and just living my life and enjoying it. Or maybe you come out of that uncovering a huge wound that you had and you were able to heal and get through that. And maybe now you actually have a huge, happy heart to be able to actually help kids and you're going into foster care and adoption with the mindset of, I want to support this foster kid and give this foster kid a safe and stable home until he is able to go home or she is able to go home. And I'm going to support that reunification as much as I can. I mean, I'm going to be there with the balloons, the kazoo, the whole 9 yards. Yes, you get to go home, kid. Or on the adoption side, I want to provide a safe, stable, and supportive home to a child who cannot live with his biological family or her biological family permanently. And by the way, that support looks like allowing that child to reach out and try to connect with his biological family when that time comes if they want. Because so many times adoptive parents will cut contact with their adoptees' families. And I've seen that personally through a whole bunch of my mutuals, on TikTok and online. I have also personally experienced that as the family on the outside. My little sister was put in foster care before I was put in foster care because we didn't live with each other. And she lived with her mom. I lived with my mom. And I'm not going to get into why she was put in foster care because that's not my story to tell. Although she does watch my content. So sis, if you're watching this, feel free to pop off in the comments if you want to. But she was put in care and she was adopted in care pretty quickly because neither one of her parents were going to be able. Our dad was in prison at the time and her mom had problems, major problems at the time. And so, yeah, she was adopted pretty quickly and they changed her name. They changed my little sister's name. And I always knew her as Isabel. So I went my whole life wondering, where's my little sister? We called her Izzy Busy, my little Izzy Busy sissy. And I had no idea where she was, what her name was, nothing. And I spent so many years trying to find her. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I was able to find my, I guess you could say step sibling. It's my sister's half sibling, but I'm not technically related to them. I don't know. It's weird. I found distant family members and I was able to contact my sister's foster mom or adopted mom because I didn't want to rock her world and be like, hi, I'm your sister, by the way. Because I didn't know if she really remembered me or not. And so I reached out to her adopted mom and I was trying to be really respectful. I'm like, my name's Danielle and your daughter is my sister. And we were best friends growing up and I was wondering if I could talk to her. And her adoptive mom was really weird about it. And I can understand to a certain degree, not wanting to rock the kid's world of bada bing, what if she didn't know? But at the same time, I'm well, that's your job to inform your adopted kid if they actually have family or siblings or not. That's actually your job because life is unpredictable and you never know if we're going to come out of nowhere. Bada bing, bada boom. But it turns out my little sister did remember me. She just didn't know my name. She didn't know how old I was, but she had memories of me, and she had a few like pictures of me from when we were kids. And that just like, it breaks my heart for her to like know like I was here that whole time. I wanted a relationship with her that whole time, and clearly she wanted a relationship with me. She just didn't know really who I was, and we could have had that. We could have had a relationship our entire childhood, but because my sister's adopted mom wanted to create this like, oh my gosh, my camera's falling down again. But because my sister's adopted mom wanted to create like this fantasy of like this perfect family, as if like, well, this is my kids, and our family is right here. Instead of accepting that when you foster or adopt kids, your family's going to look different. Your family tree is not going to start here and then branch all the way down. You might fucking have branches going everywhere. Congratulations. Welcome to fostering and adopting. It is messy. And these kids need lots of love and support. And that support is going to look so different child to child and family to family. You may foster or adopt a kid who wants absolutely nothing to do with their biological family. Cool, support them. You may adopt or foster a kid who wants everything to do with their biological family. Cool, support them. But at the end of the day, the whole reason that you should be fostering or adopting is not at all for yourself, your own gratification, or your own gain. It should quite literally only be because you see a need and you can meet that need for children who have extra needs and extra support needs, and maybe more complex care needs, right? Because again, the number one reason these children are removed from homes or put up for adoption is poverty. In fact, I want to read you guys this. This is from thechildrensrights.org. I'll have it linked down below. It's Welfare and Control, the United States Child Welfare System. This was posted February 2025. I really encourage you guys to go through this and read it. It's done really well. It's a lot of information, but I think that it's really good. But I want to read this part in particular, just so you guys can really believe me, okay? Neglect is the most common reason for child removals in the United States. In fact, more than 75% of child removals cite neglect as the primary justification. However, neglect is often a thinly veiled proxy for poverty, meaning that families struggling with housing instability, food insecurity, and financial hardship are more likely to be separated from their children. Research shows that inadequacy of income, more than any other factor, constitutes the reason that children are removed. In fact, federal legislation, in particular the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act of 1974, requires that individual states include neglect as legal grounds for child welfare removals, or risk losing federal funding for their child welfare systems. In many states, neglect is defined as a lack of medical, dental, surgical, childcare, behavioral, or other services. 2, failure to provide for basic needs, including food, nutrition, clothing, education, and shelter. 3, failure to supervise a child. And 4, parental needs, including mental illness, developmental disorders, and domestic violence. These conditions frequently reflect symptoms of poverty rather than actual parental unfitness. And I think that that is such an important thing to end this conversation on, because again, we are talking about children who are being removed or willfully relinquished due to outside situations that could be solved with the right support from the community or state or government. We are instead encouraging the rich families, when they don't want to go through with infertility treatments anymore, to go ahead and swoop in and scoop up all of those poor babies from those mean families who can't take care of them. Oh, and while you're at it, while you're at watching me be this superhero, also give me more money so I can make the nursery look exactly how I want it, as if this was my kid. And no, I'm not going to give any of this money to the biological parents because they got their kid taken away for a reason, right? I am entitled to it because I want a baby and I have more money. Oof. When in reality, we could just be giving all of this money and all of this help and support and resources to families who want to stay together and just need a little bit of extra help. Adopting a child, whether it is a baby or an older child, fostering children, whether they are babies or older children, will not heal the infertility wound that you possibly have. And it's downright evil to view foster care or adoption as second best or a last resort option. If that is how you feel about foster and adoptive kids, maybe you just shouldn't be a parent. I think before anybody decides to foster or adopt a kid, they should genuinely sit down and ask themselves why. And if the first thing or if any of the things that come out of your mouth about why has anything to do with making you feel good or look good, you shouldn't be. At least not after you've had intensive therapy and figuring out why. Why do you feel entitled to a human being? Why do you feel entitled to owning another person? Also, another thing before I go, because I feel like I've kind of covered all of my bases here, another telltale sign that tells me that you're not fostering or adopting to help the children who need extra love and support during these hard times is when you're only fostering or adopting babies. Oh yeah, your heart's really in it for the kids, ain't it? Anyway, but I think that's all I have for you guys today. I think I covered all of the bases. And if you are thinking of fostering or adopting, therapy is not a bad thing to go through before you literally put the life of some other traumatized person in your hands. And I don't know why people get offended to be told maybe therapy would be a good idea before you put the life and well-being of another traumatized person in your hands. Okay? And also, the only reason that you should be adopting or fostering is because you see a child who is going through a hard time and you are able to provide a stable, safe, and loving, supportive home until that child either goes back with their family or stays with you forever. I don't know. But the only reason you should be adopting or fostering is for the children. Not to make you look good, not to make you feel like a mommy or a daddy, not to be told Happy Mother's Day or Happy Father's Day or to get the cool Christmas picture under the tree. It should quite literally be because you know that there is a child out there who needs a warm bed to sleep in and a full tummy to go to bed with that night. And you can provide that. Has nothing to do with you. Doesn't matter if the kid destroys the bed. Doesn't matter if they throw up all the food. You tried. You gave them a warm bed and you are helping them. Has nothing to do with you. But that's all I have for you guys. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Subscribing would mean the world to me. It really lets the algorithm know that you guys like my videos and my content, and it helps YouTube to push it out to more people. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you would do that. And I will see you guys on the next one.